The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over Anna and John's quaint two-story home. The house, with its neatly trimmed hedges and flower-filled garden, exuded a welcoming charm. Inside, the couple was preparing for a significant change in their lives. Anna Kazad, a woman with kind eyes and an air of gentle determination, glanced nervously at the clock. John Kazad, her supportive husband with a calm demeanor, squeezed her hand reassuringly. "They'll be here soon," John said, his voice steady. "How are you feeling?" Anna took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Nervous. I just want him to feel safe, you know?" A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Anna and John exchanged a glance, then moved to answer it. Standing on the porch was a social worker holding the hand of a small, wide-eyed boy. Ethan, just 3 years old, clutched a worn, stuffed rabbit, his eyes darting around anxiously. "Hello, Anna, John," the social worker greeted. "This is Ethan." Anna crouched down to Ethan's level, her voice soft and inviting. "Hi, Ethan. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Anna, and this is John. We're so happy you're here." Ethan didn't respond. His grip on the rabbit tightened, and he shifted closer to the social worker. "Why don't we go inside?" John suggested, stepping aside to let them enter. Once inside, the social worker gently encouraged Ethan to let go of her hand. "Ethan, this is your new home for now. Anna and John are very kind. You'll be safe here." Ethan's eyes were filled with uncertainty and fear. He clung to his rabbit, taking hesitant steps into the house. Anna noticed the tension in his small frame and resisted the urge to reach out and comfort him too quickly. "Would you like to see your room, Ethan?" Anna asked, keeping her tone light. Ethan glanced at the social worker, who nodded encouragingly. He then looked at Anna and gave a small, reluctant nod. Anna led the way up the stairs, John following closely behind with Ethan. The room they entered was painted in soft blues and greens, with a bed covered in a quilt and a bookshelf filled with colorful storybooks. A small table by the window held a set of crayons and paper. "This is your room, Ethan," Anna said gently. "You can play here, and if there's anything you need, you just let us know." Ethan's eyes roamed the room, but he remained silent. The social worker gave him a reassuring smile before turning to Anna and John. "I'll leave you now. If you need anything, don't hesitate to call." After she left, an awkward silence filled the room. Ethan stood near the door, unsure of what to do next. Anna and John exchanged a look, communicating without words. John knelt beside Ethan, trying to appear less intimidating. "Would you like to color, Ethan? Or maybe we could read a story together?" Ethan shook his head, his eyes downcast. Anna could see the fear and uncertainty etched on his face. She knew this transition would be hard, but seeing it firsthand tugged at her heart. "That's okay, Ethan," Anna said softly. "You don't have to decide anything right now. Just know that we're here for you, and we want you to feel comfortable." Over the next few days, Anna and John focused on making Ethan feel at home. They maintained a gentle and patient approach, giving him space when he needed it and offering comfort when he seemed ready. Anna noticed small changes. Ethan began to explore the house more, his steps a bit less hesitant. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Anna noticed Ethan watching her from the doorway. She smiled warmly. "Hey there, Ethan. Would you like to sit with us?" Ethan hesitated, but then slowly walked over, climbing onto the couch beside Anna. She handed him a picture book, and to her surprise, he took it. They sat in comfortable silence as Ethan flipped through the pages, his small fingers tracing the colorful illustrations. John glanced over, a hint of a smile on his lips. "You're doing great, buddy." Ethan looked up, meeting John's eyes for the first time. It was a brief moment, but it was filled with a spark of connection. Anna's heart swelled with hope. It was a slow process, but Ethan was starting to trust them. As days turned into weeks, Ethan's initial fear began to fade. He started to respond to Anna and John's kindness, inching closer to them emotionally. He still had moments of withdrawal, but Anna remained patient, understanding the depth of his trauma. One night, as Anna tucked Ethan into bed, he looked up at her with wide, questioning eyes. "Anna, will you stay with me until I fall asleep?" Her heart melted at his request. "Of course, Ethan. I'll stay right here." She sat beside his bed, humming a soft lullaby as Ethan's eyes grew heavy. For the first time, he seemed at peace, his small hand reaching out to hold hers. As he drifted off to sleep, Anna whispered, "You're safe here, Ethan. We'll always be here for you." In the quiet of the night, Anna felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They were just beginning their journey, but she knew they were on the right path. The mornings in Anna and John's home began to take on a familiar rhythm. After the initial days of Ethan's arrival, marked by tentative steps and uncertain glances, there was a slow but perceptible shift in the air. Anna, determined to help Ethan feel safe, planned a series of outings to ease him into his new surroundings. "Let's go to the park today," Anna suggested one sunny morning. "I think you'll like it, Ethan. There's a pond with ducks and a playground." Ethan's response was a hesitant nod. He still clung to his stuffed rabbit, a small anchor in a sea of change. As they walked to the park, Anna kept the conversation light, pointing out birds and flowers along the way. Ethan listened but remained quiet, his eyes wide and observant. John walked beside them, offering quiet support. At the park, Anna watched as Ethan's eyes lit up at the sight of the ducks. "Would you like to feed them?" she asked, holding out a small bag of breadcrumbs. Ethan took the bag, his grip tentative. He approached the pond slowly, throwing the crumbs with deliberate care. John joined him, showing him how to toss the bread so it scattered widely. "You see how they all come together?" John said, his voice calm and steady. "They're not so different from us. We all need a little help sometimes." Ethan glanced up at John, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He nodded slightly, his shoulders relaxing a bit. Back at home, the routine of meals and bedtime stories continued to build a sense of normalcy. One evening after dinner, Anna suggested they read a story together. She handed Ethan a picture book and sat beside him on the couch. "Would you like to read with me?" she asked gently. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. As they turned the pages, Anna noticed Ethan's fingers tracing the illustrations. He seemed more engaged, his earlier apprehension slowly melting away. "Do you like this story?" Anna asked, her tone casual. Ethan nodded again. "It's nice," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Anna smiled, feeling a small victory. "I'm glad you like it. We can read as many stories as you want." The days passed, filled with small but meaningful interactions. Anna and John took Ethan to museums, where he marveled at the dinosaur skeletons, and to parks, where he began to play more freely. Slowly, Ethan's barriers started to lower, and he began to show glimpses of his true self. One afternoon, as they sat on a park bench, Ethan turned to Anna, a question in his eyes. "Why did you take me in?" he asked, his voice tinged with curiosity and a hint of skepticism. Anna looked at him, her heart aching at the vulnerability in his question. "Because you needed a safe place, Ethan, and we wanted to give you that." Ethan frowned, processing her words. "But what if I'm not good?" he asked, his voice cracking. Anna reached out, her hand resting gently on his. "You are good, Ethan. Everyone has moments when they feel scared or make mistakes. That doesn't change who you are." Ethan's eyes filled with unshed tears. "I miss my mom," he admitted, his voice breaking. Anna's heart ached, but she remained composed. "I know, sweetheart. It's okay to miss her. It's okay to feel sad." John, sitting beside them, added, "We're here for you, Ethan. No matter what, you can talk to us about anything." Ethan nodded, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. The conversation, though difficult, seemed to lift a weight off his small shoulders. As the weeks went by, Ethan began to open up more. He talked about his past in fragments, revealing the pain and confusion he felt. Anna and John listened patiently, offering comfort and understanding. They created a space where Ethan felt safe to express his emotions, no matter how turbulent. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, Ethan had a meltdown. He threw his toys in frustration, tears streaming down his face. Anna and John stayed calm, waiting for the storm to pass. "Why do you even care?" Ethan shouted, his voice filled with anguish. Anna knelt down, her eyes meeting his. "Because you matter to us, Ethan. We care because we love you." Ethan's anger melted into sobs, and he collapsed into Anna's arms. She held him tightly, whispering soothing words. John, standing nearby, watched with a mixture of sadness and hope. He knew this journey was far from over, but in that moment he saw the first true signs of healing. That night, as Anna tucked Ethan into bed, he looked up at her with tired eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice soft but sincere. Anna smiled, her heart full. "You're welcome, Ethan. We're here for you, always." As Ethan drifted off to sleep, Anna felt a profound sense of hope. It was a slow journey, but step by step they were building trust. And in that trust, there was the promise of a brighter future. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over Anna's living room. She glanced at the calendar on the wall, today's date circled in bright red. It was the day Ethan would see his older brother Lucas for the first time since they had been separated. The anticipation in the air was palpable. "Ethan, are you ready?" Anna called out, her voice carrying a mix of excitement and concern. She knew how important this reunion was for him. Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching his stuffed rabbit. His expression was a blend of nervousness and hope. "Are we really going to see Lucas today?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Yes, we are," Anna replied with a reassuring smile. "He's waiting for us at the park." The drive to the park was filled with a tense silence. Anna glanced in the rearview mirror, watching Ethan as he stared out the window, lost in thought. She reached over and squeezed John's hand, drawing strength from his steady presence. When they arrived at the park, Ethan's eyes scanned the area frantically. Anna led him toward the playground, where a group of children were playing, and then he saw him, Lucas, standing near the swings, his face lighting up as he spotted his younger brother. "Lucas!" Ethan shouted, breaking into a run. He threw himself into his brother's arms, and they held each other tightly, tears streaming down their faces. Anna and John hung back, giving the boys a moment to reconnect. Anna felt a lump in her throat as she watched the reunion, the raw emotion of the scene almost overwhelming. Lucas looked up at Anna, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he mouthed, his voice too choked to speak aloud. Anna nodded, her own eyes misty. "You're welcome," she whispered. The boys sat on the grass, talking in hushed tones, their heads close together. Anna and John approached them slowly, not wanting to intrude on their moment. "How have you been, Lucas?" Anna asked gently, taking a seat beside him. Lucas shrugged, his expression guarded. "It's been hard. I miss Ethan. I miss everything." Ethan leaned his head against Lucas's shoulder. "I missed you too. It's not the same without you." John cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Well, we're here now. Let's make the most of it. How about we get some ice cream?" The suggestion lightened the mood, and soon they were all sitting on a picnic blanket, enjoying ice cream cones. The boys laughed and shared stories, the bond between them as strong as ever, despite the time apart. As the afternoon wore on, Ethan's anxiety seemed to melt away, replaced by a sense of joy and relief. Anna watched him closely, noting the change in his demeanor. He was more animated, more open, and she realized how much he needed this connection with his brother. "Lucas, how are things at your foster home?" John asked, trying to gauge his well-being. Lucas hesitated, then sighed. "It's okay, I guess, but it's not home, not really." Anna's heart ached at his words. She reached out and touched his arm. "We're trying to work things out so you and Ethan can be together. It might take some time, but we're doing everything we can." Lucas looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and doubt. "Promise?" Anna nodded firmly. "Promise. You're both important to us, and we want what's best for you." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Anna and John gathered their things, preparing to leave. Ethan clung to Lucas, reluctant to let go. "Do we have to go?" he asked, his voice tinged with sadness. Lucas hugged him tightly. "We'll see each other again soon, I promise. Stay strong, little brother." The ride home was quieter than before, the weight of the day's emotions settling over them. Anna glanced at Ethan in the rearview mirror, seeing the tears he tried to hide. "It's okay to feel sad, Ethan," she said softly. "It's hard being apart, but we're working on a way to fix that." Ethan nodded, his eyes downcast. "I just want us to be together." "We do too," John added, his voice firm. "And we will be one day. Just hold on a little longer." Back at home, Ethan was unusually quiet. He sat on the couch, staring at his stuffed rabbit. Anna sat beside him, placing a comforting hand on his back. "We're here for you, Ethan. Always," she said gently. Ethan looked up at her, his eyes brimming with tears. "I know. Thank you, Anna." She hugged him tightly, feeling the strength of their bond growing with each passing day. As she held him, she whispered, "We'll find a way to make this right. I promise." And in that promise, Ethan found a glimmer of hope, holding on to the belief that one day he and Lucas would be together again. The house was quiet after the emotional day with Lucas. Ethan had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from the whirlwind of emotions. Anna and John sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea in front of each of them. The weight of the day hung heavily in the air. "We can't let them stay apart," Anna said, breaking the silence. Her voice was firm, but there was a hint of desperation in her eyes. "Ethan needs Lucas. They need each other." John sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, Anna, but fostering 2 kids isn't the same as fostering 1, especially with everything Ethan's been through. Can we handle it?" "We have to try," Anna replied, her determination growing. "Lucas's foster home isn't ideal. You heard him, he feels like it's not his home. We can give them both a real home, together." John looked at her, his expression torn. "What if we fail? What if we can't handle it, and it makes things worse for them?" Anna reached across the table, taking his hand. "We won't fail. We'll make it work. We have to. For them." John stared at their joined hands, then nodded slowly. All right, let's do it. We'll foster Lucas. The next morning, Anna made the call to the social worker. The process to bring Lucas into their home officially began. Days turned into weeks, filled with paperwork, home visits, and endless discussions. Finally, the day arrived for Lucas to move in. The car pulled up in front of the house, and Anna felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She opened the door, watching as Lucas stepped out, his face a mask of uncertainty. Ethan, who had been anxiously awaiting his brother's arrival, ran out to greet him. "Lucas!" Ethan shouted, wrapping his arms around his brother. Lucas hugged him back, a small smile breaking through his guarded expression. "Welcome home, Lucas," Anna said, her voice warm. "We're so happy you're here." Lucas looked around, his eyes taking in the house and the yard. "Thanks," he muttered, his voice low. Ethan was thrilled to have his brother with him, but Lucas's presence brought new challenges. The days were filled with small conflicts and moments of connection. Lucas struggled to find his place, while Ethan grappled with the fear of losing his brother again. Anna and John worked tirelessly to create a sense of unity and stability. One evening, as the family sat down to dinner, Lucas spoke up. "Why did you take me in? I mean, really?" Anna paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. She set it down and looked at him, her eyes filled with sincerity. "Because you and Ethan belong together, and because we care about you, Lucas. We want you to feel safe and loved here." Lucas's eyes flicked to Ethan, then back to Anna. "What if I don't fit in?" John leaned forward, his gaze steady. "You do fit in. It's not about fitting into a mold. It's about being part of a family. And you are part of this family." Lucas looked down at his plate, his expression softening. "I'm just scared." "We all are," Ethan said quietly, reaching for his brother's hand. "But we can be scared together." Anna felt a surge of pride and love for her boys. "Exactly. We'll face everything together." The road ahead was still uncertain, filled with challenges and doubts. But as they sat together, sharing a meal and their fears, a sense of hope began to take root. They were a family, and they would find their way, one step at a time. That night, as Anna tucked Ethan and Lucas into bed, she felt a deep sense of peace. The mornings had become more challenging. Anna noticed it first in Ethan's reluctance to get ready for school. He dragged his feet, his usual curiosity dulled. The sparkle that had begun to return to his eyes was now clouded with worry. Anna felt a knot of concern tighten in her chest, but she decided to wait and observe. "Are you okay, Ethan?" she asked gently one morning as he sat at the breakfast table, pushing his cereal around the bowl. "Yeah," he mumbled, not meeting her eyes. She exchanged a glance with John, who raised an eyebrow, signaling his shared concern. They both knew something was wrong, but decided not to push him just yet. At school, Ethan's days were filled with tension. He was an easy target for the bullies who taunted him for being a foster child. They called him names, mocked his background, and sometimes pushed him around. Ethan felt isolated and ashamed, but he didn't want to tell Anna. He didn't want to be a burden. "Why don't you just go back to where you came from?" one of the boys sneered during recess, shoving Ethan against the wall. "Leave me alone," Ethan muttered, his voice barely audible. He kept his head down, hoping they would lose interest. But they didn't. The bullying continued, chipping away at his confidence. Ethan's grades started to slip, and he withdrew further into himself, spending more time alone. Anna and John noticed the changes. Ethan was quieter at home, often retreating to his room after school. His appetite diminished, and he seemed constantly on edge. One evening, as they sat in the living room, John brought it up. "Anna, "Have you noticed how different Ethan's been lately?" John asked, his brow furrowed with worry. Anna sighed, her worry evident. "I have? He's so withdrawn. It's like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders." "We need to find out what's going on," John said firmly. "This isn't just a phase." The next day, Anna decided to talk to Ethan's teacher. She arrived at the school early, her anxiety growing with each step. In the classroom, Mrs. Adams greeted her with a warm smile. "Mrs. Kozad, it's good to see you." "What brings you here today?" Mrs. Adams asked, sensing Anna's concern. "I wanted to talk to you about Ethan," Anna began, her voice steady. "He's been acting differently at home. He's withdrawn and his grades are slipping. Has anything happened at school that I should know about?" Mrs. Adams's expression turned serious. "I'm glad you came to talk to me. Ethan has been having a tough time. I've noticed he's been quiet and less engaged. Some of the other kids, well, they haven't been very kind to him." Anna's heart sank. "He's being bullied, isn't he?" Mrs. Adams nodded. "I'm afraid so. I've spoken to the students involved, but it seems to be persistent. I'm doing what I can to monitor the situation, but it's clear Ethan is struggling." Anna felt a surge of anger and sadness. "Thank you for telling me. We'll address this at home and see what we can do." That evening, Anna and John sat Ethan down for a serious conversation. The tension was palpable as they tried to approach the subject delicately. "Ethan, we need to talk," Anna began, her voice calm but firm. "Your teacher told us that some kids at school have been bothering you. Is that true?" Ethan's eyes widened with fear and embarrassment. He looked down, his hands fidgeting. "I didn't want to cause any trouble," he whispered. "You're not causing trouble," John interjected, his tone gentle but urgent. "We want to help you. We can't do that if you don't tell us what's going on." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want you to worry. I didn't want you to be upset because of me." Anna moved closer, wrapping her arms around him. "Oh, Ethan, we love you. We want you to be happy and safe. If something is hurting you, it's our job to fix it, not yours." Ethan broke down, sobbing into Anna's shoulder. "They call me names. They push me around. I hate it." John's face hardened with resolve. "We won't let this continue, Ethan. We'll talk to the school and make sure this stops." The next day, Anna and John met with the school principal. They explained the situation, their frustration and concern evident. The principal assured them that measures would be taken to address the bullying and support Ethan. Back at home, Anna and John focused on rebuilding Ethan's confidence. They spent more time with him, encouraging him to share his feelings and assuring him of their unwavering support. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Anna looked at Ethan and said, "Remember, you're not alone. We're a team, and we'll get through this together." Ethan nodded, a glimmer of hope returning to his eyes. "Thank you," he said softly. "I don't feel so scared anymore." The days following the meeting with Ethan's school were a whirlwind of activity and emotional strain. Ethan was slowly regaining his confidence, but a new challenge loomed on the horizon. One evening, as the family sat around the dinner table, the phone rang, shattering the fragile calm they had been working so hard to build. Anna answered the call, her face going pale as she listened. After a few moments, she hung up, her hands trembling. "It was the social worker," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan and Lucas's biological parents are challenging the adoption. They want the boys back." John's jaw clenched and he glanced at Ethan and Lucas, who were staring at Anna with wide, fearful eyes. "What does this mean?" John asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "It means we're going to court," Anna replied, her eyes meeting John's. "We need to fight for the boys." The news hit Ethan and Lucas hard. They had just begun to feel safe and secure, and now their world was being turned upside down again. Ethan's face crumpled with fear. "Are we going to have to leave?" he asked, his voice shaking. Anna knelt down beside him, taking his hands in hers. "We're not going to let that happen, Ethan. We love you both, and we're going to fight to keep you here with us." Lucas, always the quieter of the two, spoke up. "But what if they win? What if we have to go back?" John put a reassuring hand on Lucas's shoulder. "We'll do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. We won't give up on you." Later that evening, they gathered the boys in the living room. The air was thick with unspoken fears and worries. Anna knew this conversation would be difficult, but necessary. "Ethan, Lucas, we need to talk about something important," she began gently. "Your biological parents want you to come back to live with them." The boys' faces fell, fear and panic flickering across their expressions. Lucas clenched his fists, his voice barely a whisper. "We can't go back there. Not after what happened." Ethan looked at Anna, his eyes wide with terror. "Please, don't let them take us. Please." John stepped in, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We're going to fight this, boys. We won't let them take you away. But we need to know everything that happened before you came to us. It's important for our case." Lucas's face twisted with anger and fear. "Do we have to? It's too hard to talk about." "I know it's hard," Anna said softly, "but it's the only way we can make sure you stay safe with us." The room fell silent as Lucas took a deep breath, gathering his courage. "Our stepfather was a monster. He used to hit us, scream at us for no reason. We were always scared. And Mom, she never stopped him. She let it happen." Ethan nodded, tears streaming down his face. "He threatened us, said if we ever told anyone he'd make us pay. We couldn't even go to school some days because of the bruises." Anna felt a pang of sorrow and rage. "We're so sorry you went through that. But you're safe now. We'll protect you." The next few days were a blur of meetings with their newly hired lawyer, Rebecca, who specialized in child rights. Rebecca was a fierce advocate with a reputation for winning tough cases. She met with the family, taking detailed notes and preparing them for the battle ahead. "This won't be easy," Rebecca warned. "Their biological father will try to paint a different picture. But we have the truth on our side. We'll need to gather evidence, testimonies from teachers, doctors, anyone who can confirm the abuse." Ethan and Lucas were tense, but they trusted Anna and John. The foster family became closer than ever, supporting each other through the emotional turmoil. The day of the court hearing arrived, and the family walked into the courthouse hand in hand. Anna felt her heart pounding, but she kept her face calm for the boys. The courtroom was intimidating, the presence of their biological father a looming threat. As the proceedings began, Ethan and Lucas's biological father took the stand, portraying himself as a concerned and loving parent who had made mistakes but wanted to make amends. His lawyer painted a picture of a reformed man who deserved a second chance with his children. Anna's stomach churned with anger as she listened. When it was their turn, Rebecca presented the evidence of abuse, medical records, testimonies from teachers, and the boys' own heartbreaking accounts. Lucas was called to the stand. He walked up, his hands shaking slightly, but his eyes were resolute. Rebecca approached him with a gentle smile. "Lucas, can you tell us about your experience living with your stepfather?" she asked. Lucas took a deep breath, his voice steady despite the emotion bubbling beneath the surface. "He was a monster. He hit us for no reason. We were scared all the time. I remember hiding in the closet with Ethan praying he wouldn't find us." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward, her expression serious. Lucas continued, his voice breaking slightly. "But Anna and John, they showed us what a real family is like. They love us. They take care of us. I don't want to go back to being scared. I want to stay with them." Anna felt tears prick at her eyes. She reached for John's hand, squeezing it tightly. Ethan looked up at her, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. "Your Honor, may I speak?" Ethan asked, his small voice filling the room. The judge nodded. "You may, Ethan." Ethan stood up, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. "I just want to be safe. I don't want to go back to being hurt. Anna and John love us. They make us feel like we matter. Please don't take that away." The courtroom fell silent again, the weight of the boy's words hanging heavy in the air. Rebecca approached the bench, her voice clear and unwavering. "Your Honor, these children have endured unimaginable hardships. They have found a safe haven with Anna and John. I urge you to consider their well-being and grant custody to their foster parents." The judge sat back, her face thoughtful. The silence was deafening as she deliberated. Anna's heart raced, every second feeling like an eternity. She glanced at John, who mouthed, "It's going to be okay." Finally, the judge spoke. Given the compelling evidence and the heartfelt testimonies from the children, it is clear that their best interests are served by remaining with their foster parents, Anna and John. Custody will remain with them. The biological parents will have supervised visitation rights. Relief washed over Anna like a tidal wave. She hugged Ethan and Lucas tightly, tears streaming down her face. John wrapped his arms around all of them, his own eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you, Your Honor," Rebecca said, her voice filled with gratitude. The biological father slumped in his seat, his face a mask of defeat. Anna felt a twinge of pity, but quickly dismissed it. Her priority was the boys, and they had won. As they walked out of the courthouse, the sun shone brightly, a stark contrast to the gloom inside. Anna looked at her family, her heart swelling with pride and love. They had faced their greatest fear and emerged stronger. "We did it," John said, his voice choked with emotion. Anna smiled, her eyes meeting his. "Yes, we did. Together." Ethan and Lucas looked up at them, their faces bright with hope. "We're a family," Lucas said, his voice firm. "Always," Anna replied, hugging them tightly. "No one can take that away from us." And as they walked away from the courthouse, hand in hand, they knew they were not just a family bound by law, but by an unbreakable bond of love and resilience. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over Anna and John's home. The house, which had seen years of laughter, tears, and growth, was now bustling with life once again. It was a special day, a family reunion that brought everyone together under one roof. Lucas arrived first, looking every bit the successful man he had become. As a renowned doctor, he carried himself with confidence, his warm smile reflecting his inner peace. He was greeted with hugs and laughter, his presence lighting up the room. Shortly after, Ethan walked in, a well-known entrepreneur whose innovative ideas had made him a rising star in the business world. He exuded charisma and joy, his eyes sparkling with the same mischievous glint Anna remembered from his childhood. The house was filled with family members, each adding to the chorus of conversations and laughter that echoed through the halls. The kitchen was alive with the aromas of a hearty meal being prepared, and the living room buzzed with excited chatter and the clinking of glasses. Anna watched the scene with a heart full of pride. John stood beside her, his arm wrapped around her shoulders, both of them taking in the sight of their boys, now men, thriving and happy. "Can you believe how far they've come?" John whispered, his voice filled with awe. Anna smiled, her eyes misty. "I always knew they would make it. They had so much strength inside them, even when they didn't realize it." Lucas and Ethan, now in their 30s, mingled with relatives, their laughter punctuating the air. As the evening progressed, everyone gathered in the living room, the atmosphere cozy and warm. Lucas stood up, clearing his throat. "Can I have everyone's attention for a moment?" The room quieted down, all eyes on him. "I just wanted to say a few words." He looked at Anna and John, his eyes reflecting deep gratitude. "I wouldn't be where I am today without the love and support of these two incredible people. When Ethan and I came into their lives, we were scared, broken, and unsure of what the future held. But Anna and John gave us hope. They gave us a family." Ethan nodded, standing up to join his brother. "We went through a lot of tough times, but we also made some of the best memories here. You both showed us what it means to be loved unconditionally, to be supported no matter what, and for that, we are eternally grateful." Anna felt tears welling up. She reached for John's hand, squeezing it tightly. "You boys have grown into such amazing men. We are so proud of you, more than words can say." John added, his voice thick with emotion. "Seeing you both succeed and find happiness is the greatest reward we could ever ask for. We love you, always." Lucas and Ethan moved to hug Anna and John, the four of them standing together, enveloped in a circle of love and warmth. The room erupted in applause, the family celebrating not just the success of Lucas and Ethan, but the bond that had brought them all together. As the evening continued, Lucas and Ethan shared stories of their childhood, reminiscing about the challenges they had faced and the triumphs they had achieved. They spoke of the days when the fear of their past still haunted them, and how Anna and John's unwavering support helped them overcome those fears. "Remember the time we built that treehouse?" Ethan said, grinning. "We were so proud of it, even though it was more of a hazard than a home." Lucas laughed. "Yeah, and John had to come rescue us when we realized we were too scared to climb down." John chuckled. "I'll never forget the look on your faces. But you did it, and that's what matters." The night wore on with more laughter and shared memories. Finally, as the reunion neared its end, Lucas and Ethan stood up once more. "We have some exciting plans for the future," Lucas announced. "Ethan and I are starting a foundation to help other foster children. We want to give back and support those who are going through what we went through." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "We've been given so much, and it's our turn to pay it forward. We hope to make a difference, just like Anna and John did for us." Anna's heart swelled with pride. "You two continue to amaze us. Whatever you need, we're here to support you." The night concluded with a family photo. Everyone gathered together, their smiles bright and genuine. As the camera clicked, capturing the moment forever, Anna felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. Love and resilience had carried them through the hardest times, and now, standing together as a family, they were ready to embrace whatever the future held. They were proof that with love, anything was possible.